Eli Turner wiped his hands on a rag and examined the blinking console before him. The space station hummed softly around him, its lights casting long shadows across the metallic walls. He loved this part of his job, the quiet moments when it was just him and the machinery. For Eli, every wire, every circuit, and every panel told a story. And today, he had a routine task. Check and repair a set of equipment belonging to the Zephyrin delegation visiting the station. He didn't know much about the Zephyrins except that they were elegant, intelligent, and very particular about their technology. Humans and Zephyrins didn't always understand each other, but Eli had learned one thing in his years of engineering. The machines spoke a universal language, even if the beings operating them didn't. As he tightened a loose panel, the doors to the station's observation deck hissed open. Eli glanced up expecting a technician or one of his human colleagues. Instead, a figure stepped into view, bathed in soft light. She was unlike anyone he had ever seen. Her movements were graceful, almost floating, and her clothing shimmered in patterns he couldn't identify. Her eyes, large, luminous, and green, locked onto him immediately. "Hello," she said, her voice musical yet firm. "I am Leora of the Zephyrins." Eli blinked. He had been briefed about the delegation, but not about meeting the princess herself. He straightened, offering a polite nod. "I'm Eli Turner, station engineer. I'll be checking your equipment today." Leora's lips curved into a smile, small and mysterious. "Yes, I understand." She stepped closer, her gaze fixed on the panel he had just repaired. Eli assumed she was interested in the technical details. "Most of this is standard," Eli began, tapping a screen. "But I'll run diagnostics to ensure everything meets safety standards. You won't notice any interruption, just minor recalibration." Leora tilted her head slightly. Eli didn't think much of it, assuming she was merely curious about human methods. He removed a small toolkit from his belt and began inspecting a handheld device she had placed on the table. As he worked, he muttered instructions aloud to himself, a habit he had developed over years. "Panel is secure, recalibrating sensor, now testing voltage. Perfect." Every so often he glanced up to see Leora watching intently. It wasn't just curiosity. There was something more in her gaze, something he couldn't place. He shrugged it off. Aliens often had strange customs, and perhaps this was one of them. Eli moved to a larger console, running his hands over smooth surfaces and tightening screws where needed. "These connectors are slightly misaligned. Not dangerous, but could reduce efficiency," he said. He replaced a small component, adjusting it carefully. Leora's eyes seemed to sparkle. "You are careful," she said softly. "Very precise." Eli paused, unsure if she was making an observation or offering a compliment. "Yes," he replied. "Precision is important in engineering. Small mistakes can become big problems." She nodded slowly, her smile widening. "Yes, in my culture, careful hands, careful heart, are highly respected." Eli frowned slightly. He wasn't sure he understood her meaning. He simply nodded, returning to his work. "Well, thank you. Let's run a full test now." He pressed a series of buttons and the console whirred to life. Lights blinked, screens displayed graphs, and small robotic arms moved in a smooth, precise rhythm. Eli's eyes lit up. Everything is functioning optimally. Leora's smile broadened. She stepped closer, tilting her head to the side in a way that seemed deliberate, thoughtful. Eli, busy checking the final readings, didn't notice the subtle movement. "You have done this for me?" she asked, her voice softer now. "For my safety, my comfort, my honor." Eli blinked, confused. "Yes, well, technically, I'm just repairing the equipment." Leora's eyes glimmered and she leaned forward slightly. I see. This is the way of your people. To offer care through work, to offer respect, perhaps to offer yourself?" Eli froze, screwdriver halfway to a panel. He stared at her, baffled. "Wait, what?" Leora's smile deepened, and she took a step closer. "Do you not know human, What you have done, in Zephyr and custom, the careful tending of another's possessions, it is considered a proposal of partnership, of trust, of union. Eli's mouth went dry. He dropped the screwdriver onto the console with a loud clink. Partnership? Union? Whoa, wait, no. I'm just fixing your equipment. Leora's expression didn't change. She seemed genuinely happy, even excited. Then you have chosen me, without words, without hesitation, as your companion in life? Eli ran a hand over his face. He could feel the heat rising in his ears. No, absolutely not. I didn't mean— Shh, Leora interrupted, gently. There is no need to explain. Actions speak louder than words. Eli leaned back against the console, staring at her in disbelief. He could hear the soft whirring of the station in the background, and yet everything else seemed to fade. How could a simple repair job turn into whatever this was? He looked at the blinking lights, the neatly aligned panels, the fully functional console, and then at the princess whose green eyes seemed to shine brighter than any star he had ever seen. He swallowed hard. I think there's been a misunderstanding. Leora tilted her head again, considering him with a calm, patient gaze. Perhaps. But you have acted with intention, with care, with respect, and for that, you have honored me. Eli groaned softly and sank into the nearest chair. He didn't know whether to laugh, cry, or call for help. His hands had repaired equipment. Somehow, in some strange cosmic twist, he had inadvertently repaired his own life into an unexpected and utterly confusing mess. Outside, the hum of the space station continued, steady and unchanging, as if nothing extraordinary had happened. But inside the observation deck, two very different beings faced each other, one terrified, one overjoyed, connected by nothing more than wires, circuits, and a series of innocent, misinterpreted actions. Eli Turner, human engineer, had never considered himself romantic. Yet here he was, caught in the middle of what the galaxy would soon call an accidental proposal. And he wasn't sure whether to run or to start learning about Zephyr and customs. Very, very fast. Eli sat in the chair, his head resting in his hands. He had spent his life repairing machines, solving problems, and keeping systems running smoothly. He had not spent his life navigating alien social customs, especially not those involving royalty. Leora, meanwhile, floated near the console, her eyes still bright with excitement. She was convinced that Eli's careful work had been a formal proposal. To her, this was a moment of joy, a sign of trust and commitment, and perhaps the start of something beautiful. So, Eli began cautiously, trying to sound calm. I think maybe there's been a little misunderstanding. Leora's head tilted, her long hair shifting in a way that reminded Eli of flowing water. Misunderstanding? She asked softly, though her eyes glimmered with happiness. Yes, he said. I was just repairing your equipment, that's it, nothing more. I didn't mean any of this. He gestured helplessly at the console. It's all just technical. No proposals involved, no, partnership intended. Leora blinked, slowly considering him. Then she smiled, a warm and almost teasing expression. I see, perhaps your people do not express intentions clearly with words, but your actions, care, attention, patience, say everything. In Zephyrin culture, that is a proposal. Eli groaned quietly. He had hoped she would understand, but it was clear he had underestimated the cultural gap. He glanced toward the open doors. Maybe he could sneak out before the situation escalated. But he knew it wouldn't work. Leora wasn't just any visitor. She was a princess, and the station staff were already watching. Indeed, through the observation window, several alien attendants and human technicians had gathered, murmuring quietly among themselves. Some of the aliens were whispering excitedly, pointing at Eli and Leora. Eli Turner, one of his human co-workers, Jenna, whispered as she sidled up beside him. You need to handle this carefully. Zephyrins take proposals very seriously. If you offend her, the station could have diplomatic issues. Eli groaned again. I'm a technician, not a diplomat. Jenna shrugged. Sometimes you are both. And right now, you're both engaged, apparently. She gestured toward the princess, who was watching Eli with bright eyes, completely misinterpreting his every move. Eli looked at Leora. She was arranging a small console cable in a delicate, almost ceremonial pattern. Are you preparing for something? He asked nervously. In Zephyrin custom, she said, the intended companion's first act of care is honored. Gifts and preparations are made to mark the beginning of union. I am simply following tradition. Eli's eyes widened. Gifts? Preparations? I can't. But it was too late. One of the attendants floated forward with a small crate, decorated with shimmering lights. Princess Leora, the attendant said, bowing slightly, we have brought ceremonial items for the upcoming engagement ceremony. Eli choked on his breath. Engagement ceremony? What? No, there is no. Leora looked at him, still smiling. Your hesitation is noted. But hesitation is also human expression of care. All is well. He rubbed his temples. He had started the day expecting to check and repair some equipment. He had not expected to be caught in a whirlwind of interstellar, romantic misunderstandings. Before he could protest further, a loud chime echoed through the observation deck. A holographic message projected into the center of the R. Eli Turner had faced many unexpected problems in his life. A failing warp drive, a solar flare warning, even a malfunctioning security robot that tried to chase him down the corridor. But nothing compared to the situation he found himself in now. The Zephyrin princess, Leora, had taken the proposal misunderstanding in stride, and the station staff were still adjusting to the sudden preparations for an engagement ceremony. Eli had been playing along cautiously, fixing equipment and trying not to offend anyone when the alarms blared. Red lights flashed across the deck, accompanied by the shrill wail of the station's emergency sirens. Rogue drones from a rival species, mechanical, heavily armed and highly aggressive, had breached the outer defense perimeter. They were headed straight for the observation deck where Eli and Leora were stationed. Eli's stomach tightened. Not again, he muttered. He stood, quickly surveying the room. Leora, surprisingly calm, tilted her head. Human. What is the threat? They're drones, Eli said, grabbing his toolkit. And they're about to trash the station if we don't stop them. Leora's eyes widened slightly, but she said nothing. Instead, she floated closer, observing his every movement with quiet curiosity. Eli had faced dangerous situations before, but he had never been watched so intently, especially not by an alien princess who believed he had proposed marriage to her. Eli turned back to the consoles. He had no weapons at hand, no heavy artillery. But he did have his engineering skills, his knowledge of the station's systems, and the very equipment he had been repairing for Leora. Okay, he muttered to himself. Let's see what we can do. He started rerouting power from non-essential systems to the station's defense turrets. The drones were fast, but the turrets were automated and precise. As he worked, he noticed Leora reaching out to press a few holographic buttons near the console. What are you doing? He asked. I wish to assist, she said. Your actions inspire me. If this is what humans call battle, I wish to help my intended partner. Eli froze for a moment. Intended partner? Again with that. But there was no time to argue. The first wave of drones appeared on the station's sensors. Small, sleek, and armed with energy disruptors, they moved in tight formations. Eli adjusted the targeting system, calculating angles, speed, and the energy output of the turrets. Then he had an idea. The equipment he had been repairing, personal devices, consoles, and machinery, was connected to the station's main power grid. By creating a feedback loop, he could send a burst of energy through the floor panels, temporarily disabling the Drones. Leora, can you help me with this? He asked. She nodded, floating closer. Yes. Show me your plan, Eli. Eli quickly explained, using hand gestures and simple terms. Leora listened carefully, mimicking his movements and pressing the correct sequences on the consoles. Together, they rerouted power, set the feedback loops, and prepared the energy burst. The first wave of drones entered the observation deck. Eli's heart raced. Now! He shouted. A surge of energy pulsed through the floor panels. Sparks flew, lights flickered, and the drones froze mid-air, their circuits overloaded. Then one by one they fell to the floor, completely deactivated. Eli wiped sweat from his brow. That should do it. Leora's eyes sparkled with admiration. Remarkable. You saved the station. And me. You are a true hero. Eli groaned. I didn't mean to be a hero, I just used what I know. But Leora wasn't the only one impressed. Word of Eli's quick thinking spread rapidly through the station. Technicians, attendants, and even visiting officials whispered about the human who had saved the station, using nothing but intelligence, skill, and quick thinking. By the time the station's command crew arrived to assess the situation, Eli was already being hailed as a legend. Holographic messages from other sectors began to stream in, praising the human engineer who single-handedly defended the Zephyrin delegation. Eli looked at Leora, bewildered. I didn't do this for fame, I was just fixing things. Fame is meaningless, Leora said softly, but respect, admiration, it is well deserved. She paused, her green eyes fixed on his. I am proud of you, Eli. Not only as a companion, but as a protector, a human of great skill and courage. Eli felt heat rise in his face. He had always been proud of his engineering skills, but never in front of so many witnesses, especially not a princess who believed he had proposed to her. Okay, he muttered under his breath. Maybe fame isn't so bad. But fame brought consequences too. The rival species sent a new message, this time addressed specifically to Eli. Their tone was formal, but the meaning was clear. Surrender the human engineer or face full-scale retaliation. Eli stared at the message, his mind racing. He had survived rogue drones, energy surges, and interstellar emergencies. But now he was being personally targeted. And to make matters worse, Leora was still nearby, watching him with admiration and trust. Eli? She asked, floating closer. Are you worried? A little, he admitted. But we'll handle this. We have to. Leora nodded. Then we shall face it together. I trust you completely, human Eli. Eli swallowed hard. He wasn't sure if he deserved such trust, but he felt a strange warmth at her words. For the first time, he began to wonder if this misunderstanding, the accidental proposal, was not entirely unwelcome. He turned back to the console. The station's sensors showed new drone activity approaching, but Eli's mind was already working, calculating possibilities, rerouting power, and preparing defenses. As he worked, Leora assisted him seamlessly, pressing buttons, redirecting systems, and offering suggestions that were surprisingly effective. Together, they became a team, an unlikely but formidable partnership of human ingenuity and Zephyrin skill. By the end of the day, the rogue drones had been neutralized, the station was safe, and Eli had inadvertently become a hero not only to the Zephyrins but also to the coalition of species that monitored the station. His proposal had given him courage he didn't know he had, and his actions had proven that humans could be clever, brave, and resourceful in ways that even aliens admired. Eli sat back in his chair, exhausted but exhilarated. Leora floated beside him, her expression serene. You were magnificent today, she said. I am honored to stand by your side. Eli groaned, rubbing his temples. Magnificent? I just fixed some circuits and rerouted power. Magnificent? Leora repeated, smiling. And in doing so, you have shown the galaxy the strength of humanity. Eli stared at her, realizing that even though he had not intended to become a hero or a fiancé, he had done both in a way only a human could. And for the first time, He felt a spark of pride in being exactly who he was. Because sometimes, he thought, being human meant more than repairing machines. Sometimes it meant saving lives, earning respect, and, whether you liked it or not, accidentally proposing to an alien princess. And Eli Turner was just getting started. Eli Turner had faced many unexpected situations in his life, but nothing compared to the task ahead. After the rogue drone attack, the rival species had sent a formal message demanding his surrender. Refusal could trigger a full-scale war, and somehow it was up to him, and Leora, the alien princess who believed he had proposed, to prevent disaster. The station's command team looked to Eli, their expressions a mix of fear and hope. He had proven himself brilliant with machines, but diplomacy was another matter entirely. Still, he took a deep breath. Humans had always found clever ways to solve problems, and Eli intended to do the same. "All right," he said, pacing the observation deck. "Here's the situation. These aliens want me. If we refuse, they attack. If we agree, well, I don't even want to think about it. So we need a solution that keeps everyone alive." Leora floated beside him, serene and composed. "We shall approach my home planet. There we can discuss terms. Together." Eli hesitated. Traveling to Zephyr space meant formal ceremonies, countless customs, and, most importantly, keeping the proposal misunderstanding under control. "Fine," he said finally. "But we need a plan. And we need it fast." The journey to Zephyr space was long but uneventful, giving Eli time to observe Leora in action. She was both graceful and commanding, issuing instructions to her attendants, negotiating the station's logistics, and maintaining composure under pressure. Eli found himself impressed. She was intelligent, strategic, and completely confident. He, on the other hand, was human and slightly overwhelmed. Once they arrived in Zephyr space, the enormity of the situation became clear. The planet's capital floated like a glittering jewel in orbit, with towering crystalline structures reflecting light in every direction. Diplomatic ships hovered nearby, their sleek designs indicating that every species had a stake in this discussion. Eli's first thought was simple: don't break anything. His second thought was, don't offend anyone. Both were easier said than done. They were escorted to the grand hall of the Zephyr Council, where representatives from dozens of species waited. The rival faction's envoy, a mechanical humanoid, with glowing red eyes, was seated across the room. Eli swallowed. His instincts screamed danger, but his mind was already calculating options. "Eli Turner," the Zephyr Council leader said, her voice melodic but firm. "You have arrived at the proper time. Your actions in the recent attack have been noted. Now we must discuss peace." Eli nodded, trying to appear calm. "Yes, I want peace," he said. "I'm sure." The stars outside the Zephyr Council chambers shimmered like scattered gems, but inside, Eli Turner felt something entirely new: the quiet tension of responsibility combined with curiosity. After the successful demonstration of the station's defense system, life should have returned to normal. Yet for Eli, nothing was normal anymore. Leora floated beside him, her green eyes bright with curiosity. "You are thoughtful, Eli. You spend so much time considering every option, every detail." Eli rubbed the back of his neck, feeling awkward. I guess it's just how I am. I like to think ahead, make sure things work properly." Leora tilted her head. "It is admirable, but I sense something more. You are also careful with your heart." Eli froze. Careful with his heart? He had spent all day thinking about machinery, systems, and rogue drones. Not feelings. And yet, he couldn't deny the truth in her words. Lately, he had noticed himself thinking about her, wondering what she might say or do, or how she interpreted his every move. The council had given them permission to remain in Zephyr space, while arrangements for joint training programs and interstellar peace talks were underway. This meant Eli and Leora had time alone on the observation deck. a rare quiet moment amid chaos. You know, Eli began hesitantly, I never expected any of this to happen. I came here to repair equipment and somehow I ended up in the middle of diplomacy, avoiding war and, well, apparently proposing to you. Leora's eyes twinkled with amusement. Yes, and yet I am grateful. Your actions have shown me qualities I respect greatly. Courage, cleverness, determination, and humility. Eli's stomach twisted. Humility was one thing. Admiration from a princess was another. He opened his mouth to respond but paused. He didn't want to say the wrong thing or make the cultural misunderstanding worse. Instead, they worked side by side on the station systems, testing minor upgrades for training purposes. As they worked, Leora offered suggestions. Some brilliant, some curious, but all insightful. Eli was impressed. Her intelligence, her perspective, and her calm focus made him realize that this accidental partnership had grown into a genuine collaboration. Eli, Leora said softly, breaking the quiet hum of machinery. I enjoy your company, not only because you are clever, but because you are human. Eli swallowed. Human? Thank you. I guess that's good? She smiled, tilting her head. Good is too small a word. You have a way of thinking, of acting that is refreshing, different from anyone I have known. Eli felt heat rise in his cheeks. He had spent years fixing equipment, solving problems and avoiding danger, but no one had ever spoken to him like this before. And somehow, that made him feel more alive than any success he had ever achieved. As the days passed, Eli and Leora faced new challenges together. Minor malfunctions turned into complex problems, rival species tested their patience with unexpected questions, and station personnel needed guidance for joint operations. Through it all, they became a team. One evening, while recalibrating a power array, Eli accidentally brushed his hand against Leora's. The contact was brief, but the moment lingered. Both froze, exchanging a glance that conveyed more than words could express. Eli's heart raced. He wasn't sure if Leora had felt it too, but the look in her eyes told him something was shifting. I should be more careful, Eli said, awkwardly moving back. You are careful, Leora replied softly. Careful in your actions, careful in your intentions. It is endearing. Eli wanted to laugh, but his voice caught in his throat. Endearing? To a princess? He had never imagined such a thing. And yet, he couldn't deny the warmth spreading through his chest. The next day brought a more serious challenge. A group of visiting delegates questioned the safety of the station's systems, doubting that a human engineer alone could manage them. Eli stepped forward, calmly explaining the designs, the redundancies, and the calculations behind every system. Leora watched him intently, her admiration evident. When Eli finished, the delegates were impressed. Some whispered that humans were clever, resourceful, and capable of handling far more than anyone expected. Eli glanced at Leora. She gave him a small nod of approval, and for a moment he felt a sense of pride that went beyond technical skill. That evening, Leora floated beside him on the observation deck, gazing out at the stars. You have done more than demonstrate your intelligence, she said softly. You have shown patience, courage, and kindness. Qualities not always seen in humans. Eli looked at her, suddenly aware of how close she was. I just try to do what's right. I guess it's easier when you have someone you respect watching your back. Her eyes softened. And I am honored to watch yours. Eli. There is something I wish to ask, if you will answer honestly. Eli nodded. Of course. Do you feel anything for me beyond duty? Beyond the misunderstanding of the proposal? She asked. Eli swallowed hard. He had been asking himself the same question for days, but had tried to ignore it. The truth was undeniable. I think I do, he admitted. I didn't expect it, but I care about you, more than I probably should. Leora's smile grew, gentle and sincere. Then perhaps the misunderstanding was fortunate. It allowed us to see qualities in each other that might have been hidden otherwise. Eli laughed softly, feeling a tension lift from his shoulders. Fortunate? Yeah, maybe that's one way to put it. I still can't believe this all started. Because I was fixing equipment. She reached out, touching his hand lightly. Sometimes the smallest actions lead to the greatest changes. Eli, I trust you. Not only as an engineer or a protector, but as someone important in my life. Eli's heart swelled. For the first time, he realized that the accidental proposal, the chaos, and the challenges had led to something real. He had found a partner who respected him, admired his skills, and, most importantly, believed in him. As the stars twinkled outside, Eli and Leora sat in quiet companionship. No words were needed. Their bond had grown stronger through shared challenges, mutual respect, and unexpected affection. The accidental proposal was no longer just a misunderstanding. It was the start of something genuine. And for Eli Turner, the human engineer who had only wanted to repair equipment, life had become infinitely more complicated and infinitely more wonderful. Eli Turner had faced rogue drones, interstellar diplomats, and cultural misunderstandings that could have caused a war. Yet the challenge ahead was perhaps the most personal, navigating the delicate balance between his human instincts, Zephyrin customs, and the growing feelings he now had for Leora. The Zephyrin Council had called an emergency meeting. Reports had come in that a fleet from the rival species was approaching the sector, testing the borders and the patience of all parties. Eli knew the fleet wasn't likely to attack immediately. They were cautious, observing. But hesitation could be dangerous. A single misstep might reignite conflict. Leora floated beside him on the observation deck, her expression calm but focused. Eli, we must act decisively. Our people and our allies depend on this. Eli nodded. I know. And this time we'll prepare more than just defense systems. We'll show them the strength of cooperation. He quickly began rerouting the station's energy cores, creating layered defenses and integrating the drone's behavior patterns into predictive simulations. Leora assisted him, her quick understanding of the systems proving invaluable. Together they coordinated with the Zephyrin fleet, human security officers, and even some of the rival species' neutral delegates who had grown curious about Eli's ingenuity. This is amazing, one officer whispered. He's doing the work of an entire command team. Eli kept his focus. It's not about me. It's about survival, about making sure diplomacy works. Hours passed as they refined the systems, ran simulations, and created contingencies for every possible scenario. When the rival fleet finally appeared on sensors, Eli's defenses were ready, not just physical but strategic. Their approach was halted by a combination of energy fields, predictive defenses, and a clear display of human and Zephyrin collaboration. From the command deck, Eli watched the rival ships hesitate, their sensors analyzing the integrated systems he had designed. Leora floated beside him, eyes gleaming. Your plan works, she said. We have demonstrated not only strength, but wisdom. Eli allowed himself a small smile. It's teamwork, you and I working together. Leora reached out, taking his hand lightly. And in working together, we have proven that even the smallest misunderstandings can lead to great outcomes. The rival fleet, after observing the system's efficiency and the unity between human and Zephyrin forces, transmitted a message. The tone was formal, but the meaning was unmistakable. They would respect the boundaries, avoid conflict, and observe future collaborations before taking further action. Eli exhaled, relief flooding through him. They had done it. The station, the coalition, and the peace of the sector were safe. But amidst the relief, Eli remembered the personal side of this adventure, the accidental proposal, the growing bond with Leora, and the strange, wonderful feelings he now had. He turned to her. Leora, I know this started as a big misunderstanding, and honestly, I was terrified at first. But now I think I understand. And I want to be honest with you. Leora's eyes softened, her green gaze fixed on him. I am listening. Eli swallowed. I care about you. More than I expected, more than I can explain. And I'd like to continue this, whatever this is, with you. If you'll